This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations. Come for the craft beer, bourbon, whiskey, and great drinks. Stay for the conversations. Here's your host, Jonathan Green.
Welcome into another edition of the Bar Conversations, and we close out May, kick off summer, however you want to look at it, with a very fun episode. We talked with a guy that I just enjoy. He's back for his second time on the Bar Conversations, and a country music artist, chart-topping country music artist, Kentucky native Dustin Collins. And our tasting notes, we round out this month with Mikey, aka 911 Bourbon, talking about how you protect your photos, good ways to avoid those becoming part of scams. And just so you know, our tasting notes going forward throughout the summer, we're doing a little 101 style classes. We'll be talking spirits, cocktails, beer, whiskey, all the above. It's a lot of fun. It starts with our next episode in tasting notes. But let's not waste any more time and get into the show.
It's almost time. Where did I put those? Here they are. It's time for tasting notes.
Joining us once again for a tasting notes is at 911 Bourbon on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, better known as Mikey. Mikey, welcome back.
Hey, I appreciate you having me here once again, my man.
Well, I appreciate what you've been able to pass along when we're having these chats, because, I talk cocktails, bourbon, beer, all those things, but nowadays you kind of got to watch out for folks that are after your hard-earned dollars, and that's kind of where you come in and provide just that little bit of knowledge on what people can do to, avoid mistakes and some pitfalls. And, we were talking about how to spot a scam last time, what to watch for, things like that. Maybe just take your time. But I feel like at the end of the day, there's some other things we can do or should be doing to protect some of the stuff we have. People go out and get all these cool bottles and so forth and love to share that out there with folks. But I feel like that can be a dangerous thing and give some scammers an easy spot to get some good photos.
Sure. Yeah. So everyone, you want to post that unicorn bottle. You're proud of it. You search for it. Can't wait to get it up on the Instagram. You might even crotch shot that order. but take your time. One of the cool things that I've started to learn and try to do myself is watermarking. And so essentially, like, most everyone has like their own little logo, if you will, for their bourbon dedicated page. But even if you don't have one, you can do something that's like even just putting your handle on it, right? So I use this app called Canva. And essentially, you can go on there, upload your picture, and then like you can like put your text in on the photo and then download it. And so I think that's a good thing to share across the board, especially for everyone with bigger accounts, right? Is to at least upload your logo into like the center of the picture, somewhere where it's hard to crop out, but you still got the bottle, right? That way scammers are gonna be like, oh well, I can't do that because Hot Spirits got their picture right here, so here we are. Or just putting your handle on there, like just right underneath the top of like the cork there, right? So those are just a couple good things that you could do to protect your photos, especially from being someone.
Well, I was going to say, it's not that difficult either to use something like Canva or similar things. It's really not taking a whole lot of time, is it?
Not at all. Not at all. It takes maybe about 30 seconds.
And then, the big thing too is when you're coming across these or you're getting these DMs in your accounts and so forth, is at the end of the day, yes, you need to ignore them, but it's probably better to actually report them, correct? And how does that work?
Absolutely. So Instagram, we'll just talk Instagram specifically, right? So they have multiple ways that you can report things. So if someone's hitting you up in the DM, you can actually hold down that message and the little bubbles will come up and you can say report there. They've got so many different ways that you can report this thing, like, or different subsections for the report. But most of the time you can do like, it's scammy, spam, it's pretending to be a business, things of that nature. And then essentially, like if you were to go on their profile, if you hit those three little magical buttons on the top right, it'll be like report this account. And then they'll have all those features again to where you can select, which one's appropriate. Sometimes there'll be like, they're selling alcohol. Sometimes they're not. Instagram kind of flexes between when they do that. But I just always like to put like, they're selling drugs or something. But then also like if it's like if they're stealing something from a verified content user, you can actually put like they're pretending to be someone else, and then you can find that actual person on there, and then Instagram takes that a little more seriously. So that's able to, we're able to get those accounts pulled down a little bit faster that way.
Now, I was going to say, I mean, when folks go to your account too, they can kind of see some of these people that have done that, and in a sense too, it's also good to have multiple people report those accounts, right? One is great, but more obviously kind of rings the alarm, so to speak, at Instagram or one of the social media accounts.
Absolutely. So anytime that, we get an account pulled down, always put, when you report, we see results, right? I can only report it once or twice if I'm lucky before they actually block me. Or by the time I'm actually posting this account, because I like to cheese them off a little bit, right? Like I like to tag that scammer and be like, I got you. Here's the info I got. And then they'll block. But there, I have one secret guy who he ends up getting more accounts pulled down than I do.
There you go.
And I love it. I'm just like, man, thank you for doing what you do. I appreciate it. But yeah, it takes all of us, to keep the community safe. So if there's something that you see from either my account, Bourbon Scammers, Bourbon Police, they're great resources too. Um, just go ahead and hit that report and block, and that way these people are not interacting with your following.
And not scamming people out of their hard-earned dollars or worse, and getting into some of their accounts and taking those over. And Mikey, I appreciate it as always. You can find him at 911 Bourbon on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok now. Mikey, thanks again.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate it. Cheers, my man.
Remember to check out Hops and Spirits on social media at Hop Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find Hops and Spirits on YouTube and at hopspirits.com.
Joining us here on the Bar Conversations, and technically, he might not remember this, but technically it's his second time on the show. It's been like 2 years. We got chart-topping country artist and Kentucky native Dustin Collins. Dustin, welcome back.
Yep. Thank you, man. I do remember it was, I think I Like to Drink, or there's a couple singles ago.
Just a few. I think it was like November 2020 or yeah, maybe 2020, like a long time ago. It feels like nowadays.
We was locked down still.
So, well, I appreciate you coming back on. I always like to ask this. I'm drinking a little out of Limestone Branch, a little Yellowstone family recipe. You got anything good in your glass tonight?
Yeah, man. We're rocking some Maker's Mark out of the plastic pickle jar.
I like it. I like
it's my good. It's my highball glass.
Hey, it doesn't matter how you drink it, just as long as you drink it and it's good.
I like a little more open mouth there.
Now you grew up. I know you're born in Georgia, right, and then moved to Kentucky, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you growing up in Bardstown, I'm guessing you're a bourbon man. I mean, is that just
absolutely?
Do you have a favorite?
Just bourbon all the way, man. Maker's is my favorite. I get with the Woodford Reserve. There's a new distillery that just opened up down the road from me, where I'm from in Kentucky, called Log Still Distillery, and they're doing some pretty cool stuff over there too. They actually just did a big amphitheater out there, really involved in the local music scene, and I got some pretty good bourbon, and their gin that they've been putting out is. I've never even liked gin before, but I gave it a shot, and it's pretty good.
Nice. It's good to see the Dant family doing some good things, and also I love the fact that they put out the amphitheater out there, and are able to actually have some artists. So I'm guessing you played there recently, then?
We did a show with Clay Walker back last year, and actually doing our first headlining show out there with a thing called Yake Fest coming up in July. Big fireworks show. It's cool. It's really cool because New Haven was a pretty small town, and we wouldn't get like a big fireworks display like some of the bigger towns would get. And Wally and all them are really taking care of our community, and I think it's really cool that they're doing that. And on top of making good bourbon and bringing big concerts to town.
That's awesome to hear, and I love that. And I know you're also an outdoors guy. I mean, just growing up where you did, I think that's second nature. What is it about being out there and being outdoors that you love?
peacefulness, man. Music and staying out on the road and grinding in the studio, and then I spend about 80% of my time in Nashville these days, so it's back and forth and back and forth. But every moment I get to come back home and get out on this river and sometimes I might not even be fishing or hunting, just take the boat out and just float down that river. It takes me home and puts my mind at ease, and I think it's a big part of my songwriting process is just to empty everything out and get back home.
I was gonna say, I mean, you even thought about that as a career before music kind of became front and center, right?
Well, that's I did a small stint in the military, and then when I got out, I thought, you think you're going to do all these big things. You're like, okay, I'm out of the military now. I'm going to do this or that. And I was like, man, I'd like to be a fish and wildlife officer. And I thought that'd be the coolest job in the world. And uh, I just got drawn to Nashville, and it was over after I got that first publishing deal down there and really got into it. I was like, how do you go back to everyday I guess what I would call normal life after you get sucked into the music machine? There's no going back after you figure out that you love writing songs and you love being out there on the road. And after that, I was like, man, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Well, and in a worst case scenario, that was a decent fallback option, right?
uh, I don't think I ever even second guessed a fallback option after the first little tour of Nashville we did. I was
You were
I was
hooked.
fairly well hooked on. Man, there's nothing like getting out and playing your songs for people and having people come up and say, hey man, I love your song. That's the best thing in the world to me.
Well, and I know too, before we get into a little bit more of the music, I noticed even the interview, you're kind of on the back porch grilling. I'm guessing you're a little bit of a foodie. I've seen a lot of food posts, whether that's from your days hunting or just wherever you're getting to go. You any good at the grilling kitchen?
Oh yeah, man. That's I'm a grilling and frying kind of guy. I've been on a diet due to my my COVID-19 protocol culinary skills. I guess if that's what you're gonna call it. Um, yeah, I've probably cooked every recipe that's ever come on Facebook or Snapchat or anybody that sent me any kind of recipe through anything. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna cook that, and I just got real into it. And then, of course, wild game stuff. That's where my heart is. I love hunting, and then I'm a big follower of Steve Ranilla and of course Rogan. And so I'm always all the time watching these guys go hunting and cook and clean and fix what they've went out and hunted. And I think that's the best part of it is, you get to go out and do the hunting and the fishing, but when you get to come home, you get to share it with your family and your friends and say, hey, this is what I got. And, fry it up in some different way that you're not used to having it, or even an old traditional recipe like squirrel and gravy my grandma used to cook. Um, that's the big thing in it for me.
That is awesome to hear because I have no abilities like that. I joke. My wife's nearby. She'll laugh at me at this one. But in college and right out of college, I had a recipe for scrambled eggs. I've come a long way, but that was that bad in the kitchen.
Well, I don't know. I've recently got on this TikTok deal where where like Gordon Ramsay's on there, and these guys make scrambled eggs, and I'm like, he would yell at me if he seen my scrambled eggs, he would tear me up.
But
He'd be like, why are you putting the bacon in the scrambled eggs? I'm like, okay, I'm fat.
It's
Shut
delicious. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that.
It's delicious, exactly.
Obviously you got talent. It sounds like you got talent in the kitchen. I've loved your music. I've enjoyed it. How did you get into music? Because clearly you love the outdoors. You were in the Army. You've done a lot of different things in a sense. How did music come about for you?
I mean, my dad played guitar my whole life. My uncle played guitar and wrote songs. They had a band back in the day, and they toured around and played. My mom sings, and my grandfather sang. and play guitar. And it was just something we always did. We not to say that we were super not well off or poor folks, but we didn't get to go on a lot of vacations or go a lot of places. So everybody came over to our house, and there'd always be some bush lights put down, and campfires, and they'd play guitar. My parents would play guitar. They'd have other guitar pickers come over to the house. And that was our Friday night in, whenever I was a kid. That's, we were at home. They had kids. They didn't get to go anywhere. So we were out in the backyard. They'd have a fire, and they'd be out there picking guitars and drinking hops and spirits.
The good stuff. The good stuff. Absolutely. I mean, when you think about that, I mean, did you ever think that was the way you would go, or kind of how did that process go for you?
Well, my dad was always like, the guitar ain't gonna make you no money. He said the guitar, he was get a job, get a college education, get all this stuff, do all these things. So it was never in my mind that was an actual job until I got out of the house, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna load my old truck up and go down to Nashville, see what this is about. And by God, we got down there, and a few people liked some of the songs we were doing, and now we're here.
I mean, it's got to be a crazy ride. I mean, you talk about growing up around the campfire and being part of kind of a musical family. I mean, what music did you grow up on? I mean, or who kind of influenced you over the years?
Man, just Waylon, Vern Gosdin. I got into a lot of Hank Jr. And then growing up into my high school years, I was like hardcore into Matchbox 20. I loved John Resnick from the Goo Goo Dolls. I loved all that acoustic kind of rock that was almost country, anyways. And apart from my metalhead stuff, where I like Tesla and Motley Crue and a bunch of that stuff, and Metallica, because any guitar player, you love that kind of stuff. So, but whenever I got into my years where I was trying to write songs and trying to do something a little more musical myself, is when I really got into, David Lee Murphy and Tracy Lawrence, probably the biggest influences my whole life about the way I write songs and the way I want to do my music.
I was gonna say I enjoyed the if Matchbox 20 was from Kentucky TikTok, I think it was, or Instagram video.
Oh yeah, we did that today. That was little Matchbox 20, little hillbilly in there. It's the best I could do it.
I was gonna say, I mean, nowadays I feel like you have to be on social
media. We
had
old Doug the Deer in there.
Like I said, it was great. I enjoyed that. I mean, with stuff like as crazy as it is nowadays, I mean, with TikTok and social media and all that, what's that like, trying to keep up with things like that and interact with folks?
Man, I remember when we first started doing this stuff. I mean, Facebook was young, and we were out playing, so it was still a lot of call your buddies on the phone and try to get them to come out to shows and stuff. And now it's man, you got to keep up with, like, TikTok. I mean, I'm getting a little older now, and thank God we have children around to tell us how to do TikTok, and your nieces, your nephews, your cousins, the younger ones are like, hey, stop doing these dumb TikTok things, because that's not how you do it. And you're like, okay. And you got to figure it out. But I feel like it's constantly trying to learn some kind of new social media trick in the music business to try to get the music out there and try to get it. Pardon my hillbilly neighbors. They get a little loud. But it's constantly something new that you're having to learn and having to deal with the constant changing, especially with streaming and all these things that are out there now.
I mean, do you have fun when you make like the video, like Matchbox 20, if from Kentucky, things like that? Is that a lot of fun for you?
I absolutely love getting to do, like, if I do these cover songs or I do a song like that and put my twist on it, it's always my favorite. I love playing my own music, but getting to play like Matchbox and stuff, these are songs I've played my whole life, and I was, I love getting to play them and put a different spin that somebody else might have not, and some of the kids on TikTok, you're doing a TikTok thing, these might be 14, 15-year-old kids following you. They've never even heard of Matchbox 20. So, and I think it's cool that maybe exposes some of the music I liked growing up to newer generations. I think it's really neat.
Well, I mean, when you think of the impact of things, I mean, how big of an impact did kind of Kentucky and just how your life went in general have on you and your music?
I mean, that's all. That's everything to my music. I mean, I'm a literal writer. As far as my songwriting goes, I write from real life experience, what's happened to me or people close to me, and I have a hard time just kind of writing songs about nothing I don't know about. Like, so if we're like, okay, we're gonna write this love song today, and I'm just not in a lovey mood. There's no love song coming out, man. If I come in there with that guitar and I'm in a bad mood, we're writing something. We're writing something horrible. We're gonna write an awful song or something that's sad or. But if I try to get forced into a corner about writing something I can't write about, I'm a kind of a real life in the moment. And the more time I spend in Kentucky, I feel like the better music I actually get to make, because I heard Tyler Childers say this, where it's really hard to, and not saying anybody that's in Nashville doesn't write great music, but just for me personally, that if I'm not in the country, I have trouble writing a country song. So if I can't be where I grew up and where I'm at, and I draw off the inspiration from the people I'm around, the people I grew up with, and those are what my songs are about. So it's easier for me if I'm here to write those songs, or write them and then take them to Nashville and get some of these really great writers to sit down and say, okay, I've got this idea or this idea. Then we can come in and work together and make it something. But if I don't get to spend enough time at home, I get really uninspired.
Well, I was talking to Dane Lewis a couple episodes ago, and he had something funny because you mentioned you're growing up in a small town, and
I love
like
Dane, man.
I was gonna say, and you like to write about pretty personal stuff. I asked him, I was like, "How's that?" He goes, "Well, when you're writing about a breakup, they kind of know who you're writing about. What's that like?"
Oh, I mean, that's exactly right. By the way, you said Dane, man. I met this kid at CRS. We had a ball out there. Iowa kid.
Yep. Good, smart country boy that's doing some cool things. I mean,
Shout out, Dane, if you hear this, I'm talking about you, bud.
I mean, like when you're writing like stuff like that, is it weird to think that someone that literally probably knows the story that is hearing it?
Well, I'm not going to call it out by name on my record because it's not out yet, but there's a couple songs on there that are deliberately about some people, and they're absolutely going to know it's about them, because I mean, I got a little more personal on this record than I ever have before, and some of the songs I kind of come back and was like, damn, like that was a little rough. I had to dial it back a little bit, and but it is weird to know that they're probably or possibly going to hear this song, especially in the social media circles, because so especially if you broke up with somebody, you've always got those people and you're sharing it on socials. You didn't quite get rid of all of the friends during the breakup, and somebody's gonna be like, hey, did you hear this song? Did you hear this song? And then you always risk getting a really crappy message or a bad email, but life is life, and I'm gonna write what I'm gonna write, and if it hurts your feelings, maybe you ought to look at yourself a little bit. I don't know.
Well, I mean, also too, I feel like that's relatable, right? Like you're writing literally something that happened to you, and someone else has had that same thing probably happen, or that same thing in their life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that too. It's just sometimes like you get into real personal songs, and I try not, like, I write a bunch of songs, and they're overly personal, and I'm like, comes to time to record, or maybe we leave that one out. But there was a couple of them that I put some humor into. They were funnier songs, kind of make you laugh, and I got buddies who are like, if you don't record this, I'm not buying your record. I'm like, okay. If my best buddy said he's not going to buy my record because I won't record this, we got to go take it to the studio.
Oh, that I love that. I mean, and you talk about performing and getting out. I mean, you're basically a road warrior. I know COVID times was tough. I mean, but you still found ways to interact best you could. I mean, what's it like being back out on the road and just touring and getting to do all that?
Man, I don't know, man. It's just right now, it's the best thing in the world for me to finally feel like I'm back at my job and back doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And we've done some runs so far. Been up to Iowa and had a blast up there, playing out there. Heading out to Colorado in a week. We'll be out in Colorado in a week, and hitting as many dates as we can. It just makes me feel happy that everybody else is able to come out and be back in the place. Be back like it used to be, and we're not all sitting there with masks 15 foot apart from everybody, because they said 6 foot, but everybody was standing like you had to like high five from like 18 feet back and stuff. And I was like, man, this, some, even when the bars came open, it was like, man, and the clubs were open, it was just almost not worth going to do the gig because it was so impersonal. And now to see everybody just coming back and getting together and singing the songs together. That's what we do this for. When everybody's together and everybody's having a good time. And I'm just glad that we're all back to it.
I was gonna say the atmosphere makes a big difference. I feel like when you're out and about, because it's kind of hard if no one's into it, or there's got to be they feel like they got to be on their best behavior. I don't feel like it's as good a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not one to like, if I have to go to a concert and I have to wear a mask and then pull my mask down, take a sip of my drink, put my mask back up, sit at a table, can't move, can't go anywhere. I'd rather just sit home, you know? And I think a lot of people got back into that, the kind of, I'm sitting at home and I'm not going to do anything kind of deal. And I think that now that the concerts coming back, that's why we're seeing the festivals come back to life. That's why we're seeing everything we're seeing come back to normal. And I'm as ready as probably every other musician in Nashville or anywhere else to just get back out there and throw the guitars out and melt faces.
Well, I was gonna say I'm sure one of the songs that always is asked for and this hope that you're gonna play and is played is "Cold Dead Hands." Can you talk about that song and kind of what it did for you?
Yeah, man, that was and it's not really a super overly political song. There's a lot of magazines and whatnot made it out to be, but it was just more of how I feel about a certain subject. And I think when we released it, I think a lot of people felt the same way I did about it, and it kind of catapulted us out of where we were playing like small 100-seat clubs in central Kentucky to putting us out with Aaron Watson and putting us out on the main stage, national press, getting out and going and actually giving me a chance to have a career in music. And I'll always love that song because of it, and we'll always play it at the end of every show.
That'll never change.
Plus, no, it's got a good D chord structure, which is really good for rocking out. So we all love it. It's a fan favorite and a band favorite because we love to play it.
Well, I mean, I love that too. Where like I said, that's a relatable thing. You hit a song that people just could easily relate to, and your new single "Workin Man." How you talk a little bit about that and just how it came together, because I find it funny that it wasn't what you were expecting, right? Like you weren't expecting that to be an album cut.
Not at all, man. My buddy, I was actually on another podcast. My friend Brent ran a podcast for a while for a company that is a big agricultural company, and they was coming up with podcast ideas, and he was like, "Man, I need a theme song for this podcast." And he called me. He said, "Can you write a song about tractors and farms?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." I was like, "Just so happens I know quite a bit about tractors and farms." So I wrote the song for him, and it came out like way quicker than I thought it would. It just came out of me, and I was like, "Man, this is kind of a killer song." So we got it recorded and sent to him. They used it for the podcast for a couple years, and he's since moved on from that podcast. And he kind of, I asked him, I said, "Do you care if we release this as a song on a record?" He was like, "No, man, let's do this." So it was weird when we released it. It's right now it's kind of the prep season where everybody's planting and spraying and stuff. So I've got like a whole bunch of extra social media content just sitting on my porch, just all the sprayers and tractors driving by my house. I was like, man, this is free stuff right here. I just got my iPhone out here just recording these and throwing them up on Instagram. I'm like, this is the town I'm from, and this is what we do around here.
Yeah, so I was gonna say it wasn't hard to dig deep on the experiences for that one.
No, man, that was one of the easier, straight to the heart kind of songs that just came out.
I mean, is it weird to release it after so long and it kind of be for something else? I mean, or is that just one of those things where like it worked out and it just is what it is?
Well, that's what I say, because we kind of threw it out there whenever we did it the podcast, just in case somebody from the podcast liked the song, they want to download it. We never did a full release with it, and got to talk to my team at the record. They was like, you gotta put this on there, and they could tell I had never even thought about it. I was like, really? So we went back to the studio and reworked it a little bit. I was like, okay, let's throw this thing out there, and we started hearing it on the local radios first before they started playing it on the radio, and I mean it got to where I was driving through town and I'd hear it almost once an hour because people were calling in and requesting this thing, and I was like, man, obviously somebody likes it. So it, as we're going with it, it's building and building and building, and I wouldn't have thought that song would have had any longevity because it was, to me, it was like a podcast theme song that I wrote, and it turned out to be something that everybody liked.
Well, and it's also the name of your next album, which is coming out soonish. I guess we can say. I mean, what can folks expect there? Because I remember, talking to you, before, you kind of were all over the place with It's Been a While, and we joked, I think, on the podcast that someone would come up for one song and then be like very confused by the next song. I mean, I feel like getting to listen to it a little bit though, it's got a little more, I don't know, like a plan. I don't know. It seems a little more cohesive, I guess. I don't know.
I had a little more time to write this one than It's Been a While. Over the pandemic, I really thought about what I wanted to do with my record. Like I wanted to tell my story as a person, and there's a lot more love and hate, and there's a whole bunch of emotions in this record, and they're all tied in with me. And I think if you listen to the record front to back, and having Buddy Cannon and Bill McDermott on the project to help guide the process of the songs, because I was writing and writing and writing, and we'd send these songs. Well, that don't really fit. Well, this fits, or that don't fit. And then the couple of cuts that we got from the outside writers that we brought in, everything fit together. And I was like, this is a real grown up big boy album. This is something that I should be doing. And by the time we got done with it, I could listen to the whole album myself. And I'm a horrible critic of my own self. So when I'm listening to this record, I'm like, I feel it and understand it. And then, I got a bunch of hillbilly buddies out here in Kentucky, so I let them listen to it. They'll tell me if it's awful. And, when you get some of these old boys that go to work on hard, they're working men. They work hard every day. And they tell you got a good record, you kind of get a little more confidence in releasing it. Where they say, well, that song sucked. And then you're like, whoa, crap. What do I do now? I got to go back and we got a great team now, and those guys help me out on what we should put on and what we shouldn't put on, and just keeping the songwriting flowing in the right direction.
I was gonna say, I mean, what's it like working with Buddy and Buddy Cannon and Bill McDermott?
I don't know, man. It's what's it like to work with astronauts, man? These guys are fantastic. I mean, Buddy is he's the real deal, man. He's I don't know. The day that I went in the studio and I sat down, I was I guess shock. I don't know if it was shock or we start doing this pre-production. I'm like, am I really here right now? Is this guy really telling me what's wrong with my songs, and how do we fix this, and how do we go in here, and how do we make the best presentation possible? And I'm like, this is incredible. And then Bill's one of the best engineers I've ever met in my life, coming in there, and a great producer in his own right. And I've worked with Bill a long, long time, so he kept mentored me through the process of doing this record, and it was something special for me. Absolutely, to my core, hit me in a way that I probably won't ever do a record the same way again. So it's really cool.
Well, I mean, I've gotten to listen to a few of the songs on the album, and the one I love the most is Georgia on Her Mind. I'm like, what's you talk about kind of being just kind of a different vibe on this album. I mean, what was it? Just kind of the time and you growing up. I mean, what was it? Because I mean, like I said, there's some really good cuts on.
Well, that song, man, that was one of the ones, one of the two that I didn't write on the record. And my friend from Harlan, Kentucky, Eldon Huff, who's a great songwriter, awesome human being, and one of the best guitar players you'll ever meet in your life. Great singer too. Like, Eldon, if you're listening, I ain't trying to cut you short, trying to build you up here. But great musician, and he had sent me that song years ago. And I'm originally from Georgia, so I thought it was cool there because I spent a lot of summers in Georgia, bouncing back and forth from Kentucky and Georgia back and forth. And I heard the song, and I just like, man, this is a great country music story. And not you don't hear a lot of the good story songs anymore. And I was like, man, if I ever do a big boy record and we take it out and we go all the way, I said, Eldon, I'm gonna cut this. And when we started doing this record, I sent it up to everybody. I was like, I love this song, and I've been sitting on it for a long time. I said, can we cut this on the record? They was like, yes, let's do this song on the record. And we got in there, and I put my spin on it, and I think it came out really awesome. And I'm real proud of that one, man. I don't do a whole lot of cuts, and if I do a cut, I want it to do the song the best justice possible, and it was a big deal for me, for Eldon to let me cut that song and let me take it out to country radio like we're about to do.
I was gonna say, like I said, I mean, as soon as it kind of hit, I was like, this is something just so different, and I love the storytelling aspect because, like you said, that's kind of lost at times on things, and you talk about kind of having a bigger plan with this one. I mean, is that just kind of how your career's gone too, with just kind of getting more into focus on what you want and what you feel comfortable putting out?
Yeah, and I think taking the advice of the team members that we've accrued over the years, because there's a lot of smart guys, and there it's just as much as me writing and playing and going on tour. Without the PR guys, the promotions guys, the managers, and without all these guys that are helping me, and they're helping me out of the kindness of their heart. They don't have to work for me. There's 10 million people they could go work for. This Nashville's a big town. You can go work for whoever you want to, and they get behind the project and get what I'm trying to do. And they've helped me put everything together where I can make the best representation of what I'm trying to say as an artist out there to other folks. And sometimes we're going to win, sometimes we're going to lose, but we're always going to play our songs and tell the truth in our writing. Or if I'm cutting something, I'm not going to cut something just because, hey, they say this is a hit or they say this is that or whatever. If I don't completely believe in that song, I'm not going to cut it. I'll let it pass to somebody else. I want to hear artists personally that if they're cutting music or they're playing it, I'm I don't know if you're picking up
You're
all
good.
this
I love it.
madness outside.
I love it. It's Kentucky. It's life on the porch, man.
Yeah. We got about 6 folks out here barbecuing hot dogs on the porch right now, and there's people just passing by honking horns. So
Well, I mean, you talk about kind of everything. I mean, what can like I said, I love that song. The songs I've gotten to hear, I love what this album's looking like. I mean, what can you tell us on the record right now about some new music and the album coming out?
I can tell you
That won't get you in
we'll
trouble.
have a new single. We just released Workin Man, but we'll have a new single in 8 to 10 weeks going to country radio, and we will be hopefully releasing a record somewhere in the fall time period. That's what it's looking like right now, but you can't hold me to the record release, but that's what we're trying for. So we want to release a couple singles and see how it's flowing, if we have to make some adjustments to the album, and we'll do that. But if we don't, I mean, I love the album as it is, but we'll get it out, and because we're constantly recording and writing, so we're like, if I get a song that I write tomorrow and I want to take it to the studio, I'm going in there and I'm cutting it. So we might add a couple more. We might take a couple away. I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but my goal is I know we're going to release a couple singles the next couple months, and then hopefully by fall we'll have the whole record out.
I love the tease. You leave them always wanting more. I know too with this album, some of the proceeds are going to go to benefit Glad You Made It Camp USA. Why is that so near and dear to you?
Man, as a veteran myself, I know a lot of folks and have been around a lot of folks, and I've always tried to focus my time and attention, especially when people ask me to do benefit concerts and things like that, towards veterans. And what I love about those guys is that 100% of the donations are going to the folks, that need it. That they're building villages for disabled veterans that are they can't otherwise pay their bills, that are homeless and out on the street, and they're pulling these guys off the street and helping them through their VA paperwork. They're helping them through their life issues, substance abuse counseling, things like that they actually need. And I'm just a strong believer in don't talk about it, be about it, and go out there and do what's right, and instead of taking a bunch of money and donating portions of that to the people, go out there and do the things for the folks you said you wanted to do. And if I can help anybody get off the street with whether it's mental illness or substance abuse or whatever is wrong with them, that they need a little help, if I can help at all, I'm definitely going to be a part of that.
I love that, and it's a great thing to see. And as I wrap up, DustinCollinsOfficial.com, you can find him on social media as well. And I guess my last question for you is, what else can folks expect from you in 2022? Going shows, and some
road
music?
Dates, new merch, and a brand new album. More whiskey out of this plastic pickle jar here.
I love that. I mean, that's exactly what I would expect from a guy that I would call a road warrior when times.
Well, me and my girl joked. We used to have a Monday night wine night, and we drink wine. So she had a wine glass, and I didn't. So I just grabbed this pickle jar, and I've had this thing for months now. So I just drink my wine out of the pickle jar. So now it's become like my certified cup around the house. We have other cups, but I've taken a liking to this one. So
hey, sometimes things just are what you like. I mean, nothing wrong with that. I mean, it doesn't matter how you drink it, as long as you're enjoying
absolutely,
it.
Absolutely, man. And a good glass of bourbon is especially on a Tuesday night after some hot dogs, it's a pretty good way to end the night.
I can't disagree with that. And Dustin, this was a blast, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me back on.